folks, welcome back to JamiesLocks. I'm going to be picking for you a Harbor Freight US General Rekeyable hardened lock. I got some funny things about this lock once we're done and some critique on it. It's about the exact same size as like a multi-lock. This is a TSR 25D. Little bit equivalent of this Master M15 that I did in my last video, which is actually much better of a lock than this one is. But let's get it raked up here. Now the keyway on this thing, I mean, this is a 25,000th and it's wide open keyway. So I'm going to bring this here. We're going to bring this down a little bit there for viewing pleasure. Focus, grasshopper. Okay, there we go. Now, these locks have a pretty big spring in them. Everything in here is grindy. You'll have a hard time with it. It is pick resistant from the perspective of crappy manufacturing. There's a lot going on in the lock in terms of just bits of metal and everything else. When I first got this thing and got it the first time, I had a whole chunk of the core that was actually wedged into a corner, and it was preventing this from the core from turning freely. So I had to disassemble the lock, literally pry out that piece of metal where they had drilled through the body and left some pieces up, you know, drill remnants and stuff. So we're going to apply pretty heavy tension here. And what I'm going to do is that's going to lock up a couple of the pins. I'm just going to check them to make sure that, okay, so 3 is springy, 2 is springy, 1 is springy. So I'm not going to get anything there, but I got 2 pins here, 4 and 5. One of them is going to be my binder. Let's try 4 first. Let's see how well that one moves. And I'm going to light up on the tension. I get a click. Light up on the tension on 5. Get a click. Is anybody else started binding? No. Okay, so I'm not far enough on either of those yet. You'll get a lot of false clicks on these. Typically you'll be able to feel the core movement though when you get it right, and it's because the pins aren't very smooth, and they like to grab. Okay, there's a click there. There's a click there, and the core moved on this one. So I'm going to check pin 1. Seems like it's binding now finally. There's a click there, a little bit more movement on the core. Let's check pin 2. There's a little click on that. Now let's try 3. 3 I'm not getting anything out of. Of course, it'd help if I was actually on the center of the pen. Derp. So somebody came on set, I heard the click, I don't know what it is, I must have got the binding order wrong. Let's see if I can fix it without oversetting anybody. There's that on 4, and then back up on 1, maybe? There we go. Okay, so the lock is open. Let's start disassembling it here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Just so that this isn't in my way. And let's focus. Alright, so let's take the lock out. Now, first things first, before I open this lock, I just want to show you something real quick. It says hardened here. It's big. It's I don't even think it's level on the bottom perfectly. It seems like it's a little high on the left to me. But if you look at the lock here, let's take a look at the shackle. I've already taken the liberty of taking a file to the inside of the shackle here, and you can see that there's kind of like, I think the shackle is actually made out of like a brassy copper mix type stuff that is just been plated at that point. I've never seen that color on steel. Even tempered steel, not that even, doesn't usually look like that, and you can usually just scratch it off, which I could not in this case. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that with this lock. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. Take the keys off, get them out of my way. It is a Phillips head screwdriver. Now, cautionary tale, I have taken this apart before, and this pin right here will spin on you when you're trying to take it apart towards the end, and you won't be able to get the screw completely undone. This is such a crappy lock. There we go. Simple screw. Get the rod out. Now this thing is usually a pain. There we go. Alright, so there's the lock parts there, and the core comes out. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, and I'm going to try and get this on camera. This is supposed to be hardened steel. At least that's what you assume it to be. The reality is, and you can see where I had to dig out that piece of the metal in there. The reality is that I couldn't even begin to tell you what kind of metal this is. And if you look at the milling on the inside, it's so rough and sharp. I honestly think that this thing was milled out with a drill bit that was probably older than the person operating the machinery. Now, you do have to be careful with this lock. If you open it up, one thing I discovered the hard way, this part right here will come out, and it will just pop up on its own if you manhandle the shackle too much. So kind of try and avoid letting that come out. It'll give you a hard time when you try and put the dang thing back together, if you even bother. So let's set that off to the side here. And this is what we're actually interested in. And I didn't even have a follower ready because I couldn't remember what size it was. I think it's the same size as a master. Yeah, it's the small guy. Alright, so let's lock it back up. And you can see, I mean, it's actually a halfway decent brass core in here. The tolerances are kind of crap. The keyway could have a better key, paracentricity and things like that, because it's not at all, it's just a huge gaping hole. It's a 5-pin lock. Key does work pretty smoothly when it's in there. It's a one-way thing. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't tell you why it's a one-way thing, but it is. So, but yeah, at any rate. So let's put it in, turn it. Now, I'm thinking it's press fit, since there's no C-ring or anything. It doesn't seem to want to come out. I may not be able to disassemble this lock, folks. I wonder if they didn't use a... Ooh, look at that. On the side, on the inside. I disassembled this, but I didn't really mess with the core because I didn't think it'd be an issue. But, yeah, looking at it now, I might not be able to get the core out of this thing. There's no extra lock in there or anything, is there? Or is that what that is? I think I may have figured it out. It looks like it's got a check pin down here. Let me grab my really tiny pick. There we go. Yeah, so actually that's kind of ingenious. I've never seen that before. The sixth slot, you can see it's cut for 6 slots. Um, the the sixth slot right in here, and I'll show it when I take it apart, is actually a check pin that I'm guessing regulates the rotation of the core and keeps the core from coming out. So let's get my follower and let's make sure everybody's in the right spot here. And let's go ahead. Uh-oh. Yep, this thing's going to explode when I pull it out. You can see what happened here. The side of the core, they don't include a whole core. So what happens is if you try and take it out, you're just going to end up buggering up the whole thing. And now what's happened is I've got springs and pins in here that are trying to come out. Wow, this is such a crappy. Okay, so that should be all those. Let's get the key pins out. There we go. Yeah, when something like this happens, there's not much you can do about it. I mean, there's no way I could have predicted that, and the amount of ways that you could probably exploit this is insane. So let's get this here. Get all the pins in there. That's a lot of pins. There's the check pin right there. Third spring. Probably got a couple more. Yeah, a couple more springs. 2. At least I didn't damage anything. It doesn't look. 5. Look at that core. That is such thin metal in there. And I'm sure that's just to save weight. That, you know, this looks like it's made out of reasonably good brass. But one of those things is brass costs money. So it looks like they only put a half core. And you can see the way where the check pin works in here. This limits the rotation of the core. So honestly, you could probably pick this lock if it wasn't for this plate here. If it wasn't for the plate, I think you could actually pick this lock, pop the check pin, and pull the whole core straight out of the lock without even gutting it. I'm not going to try it because obviously it makes a flipping mess. Let's try and get this thing organized though. So, key goes in, and then where the heck's my tweezers? So the check pin belongs back here. Thinking. Probably engages somehow like that. I bet you it goes inside the other part a lot easier, and then just rides in there. So it doesn't operate like a key pin. It's like a reverse key pin. Let's see this one. Yeah, I'll have to reassemble it at some point. I just wanted to try and figure out what the order of the pins were. Pinning disaster strikes again. That's not that one, but I think it might be this one. So grab you, we'll put you there. You ain't right there. I'll learn it. There we go. That's the right one. And this little, God, these are such tiny pins. I've never seen a lock like this that was this skeletonized on the inside. Obviously, there's no drill protection. It would take you about a second to drill through this thing with probably a wood drill bit. So yeah, there that is. Where the heck do you go? Oh, that means you go there. Cool. So there's the 5 pins. I'll actually bring my pinning tray out, and we'll give a proper look at these things, even though the video is going to be long at this point. I don't want to deny that. especially after something so comical as having a lock explosion because you're not expecting a paper mache core. Honestly, I probably could have forced this thing with a screwdriver pretty easily. You know, but it's a $7 lock and it's Harbor Freight. What do you expect? You know, nothing comes from Harbor Freight that is meant to be of any real quality. Let's take a look at these things. These are actually almost like spool pins. Let me see if I can't get this on camera real good here. It looks like they were, I don't know, I mean, it's a weird looking pin. It kind of looks like it's trying to be a spool. They're all like that, so, which is good for me because then I don't have to figure out which one was where. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it was just copper wire that was, or brass wire or something that was cut, and then they just kind of set it on an anvil and tamped it to mushroom out the tips. A little bit of, I don't know. I don't even know. But at any rate, let's finish doing this. That one there, that one there, that one there. And then the springs, they're just generic large springs. And I got one of these things isn't like the others. I'm guessing that's the one for the check pin. So there you go. Let's come down here and take a look. There we go. That is the General, U.S. General Harbor Freight Rekeyable lock. God, the scoring on the sides of the pins. This one's got like chunks missing out of the top of it. Soft metal, crap metal. What do you expect? Nothing fancy going on in here. Otherwise, you know, that check pin, it operates entirely by way of the core. Otherwise, this is a standard 6-pin cylinder jacket with a lot of milling mistakes and sharp edges and everything else. So there's that. Now, one thing I did want to show, and we'll pan out here. What are you doing, you stupid camera? You see these dents here? Let me show you how I made those and why this isn't hardened metal. I already showed you the inside. It looks like it's like some kind of brass copper mixture or something. I don't know. It's pot metal. It's crap. 8-ounce hammer. If this is hardened, as it says, I shouldn't be able to do that and put a sizable dent in it just by tapping it with a hammer. This thing's not hardened at all, folks. It has no hardening. And up in here, you can tell this is, let's see, my file's out. Who cares? Whatever. It's a crap lock. Don't buy it. If you actually need to secure something, don't buy it. You know, if you're, oh crap, I didn't just do that, did I? Yeah, see, this is what I mean. Now I'm gonna have a bugger of a time putting this dang thing back together because that part came up there. And the lock won't relock if you don't get that just right in there. There. Okay. Don't mess with it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget not to buy Harbor Freight locks if you actually want to secure your crap.